Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and it's that time again. It's Christmas. Oh wait, no, it's not Christmas. It's not Christmas, but we do still have an advent calendar, which I guess is technically for Christmas, but it always seems to get released a little bit early, so let's go ahead and take a look at it. You can see this time we have the Jurassic World Rebirth advent calendar, including a whole bunch of minis, pretty much the standard advent calendar we usually get. There was a like Chaos Theory advent calendar that was supposed to be coming out with like regular standard sized Mattel figures, but I have not seen anything on that in quite some time. Really hoping that does come out because like that's the only place that we see a Smoothie figure and stuff like that. But so far it seems like it's not really showing up anywhere. It did show up on Amazon briefly, but not actually for sale. It was just like the listing. It wasn't available quite yet, and then it just kind of disappeared, and who knows what's going on with it. But this one you can see looks really cool. We've of course got some beautiful artwork here on the front. We've got the Quetzalcoatlus up there, the Mosasaurus, the Spino, the T-Rex, as well as the very underused Velociraptor. And then if we turn it around here to the back, we can pretty much see everything that is included. Definitely everything over here, kind of like a checklist of all of the different figures that are included in this set. So let's unwrap this and start checking out who we have inside. So once you open it up, here's what you are then given. Basically a nice giant plastic area with a whole bunch of different figures. You could of course go the correct route and actually open each one of the doors to get all of the pieces out. I chose not to do that because this way I can save the packaging. I don't have to destroy it to kind of get in here and check everything out. And, you know, that basically means I can put all these minis back in here once I'm done. But I figured this would just be the easiest way. You know, not as fun, I guess, as opening each door, but still the easiest way to go ahead and take a look at all of them. So I'm going to remove them all from the plastic, and then we'll check them out from there. So here is everything now out of the packaging and basically standing here before us, looking pretty cool. And I must say the Titanosaurus is absolutely as incredible as it gets for a Mattel minifigure. That thing looks unreal. Also, there is some small instructions in here that basically shows you how to assemble the Titanosaurus, but I mean, that's just common sense pretty much, but they all look really cool. However, it looks like the majority of what we have in here is definitely stuff that we already had previously. So I'm going to move everything out of here and we'll bring in each one of them one by one. So the very first one that we're going to bring in here is an Ankylosaurus. And what's weird is there was also a Jurassic World Rebirth minifigure 15 pack, I think it was, set recently, and I actually grabbed those figures as well to bring in here with these because I was just curious if they were the same figures. And as you can see, when it comes to the Ankylosaurus, although the eye is horribly misplaced on the new one, it is absolutely the exact same figure. So it's kind of weird. Like, we've had so many mini Ankylosaurus figures in the past. I don't know why they wouldn't choose a different paint variant to give this one rather than straight up giving us the exact same one again. I would say that's kind of lazy on the part of Mattel, but obviously, again, nothing new when it comes to the Ankylosaurus. We've also got a Dilophosaurus in here, and that as well is absolutely the same Dilophosaurus we've had many times over now. And in fact, we even recently had this one in the Bite and Blast Mosasaurus set, except it was more of like your traditional sized mini rather than the newer, smaller ones. But we have had this new smaller one as well in the line previously. So again, nothing really too spectacular about that one unless you didn't have it prior. There is one really cool figure that I don't remember seeing prior, and that is this Pteranodon. Now, sculpt-wise, I don't know for sure if it's the exact same sculpt as the previous Pteranodon, but it definitely looks like it could be. However, the coloration is absolutely new. Kind of looks actually like maybe sculpt-wise it is a little bit different, but I'm not positive. But you've got a really cool, kind of like a pinkish tone there for the wings, which I think looks really good. You also have a dark, kind of like a greenish tone for the body, and then an orange that moves over the beak and then up into the crest. The overall fine detail looks really good on the Pteranodon as well, really vibrant. Definitely pops quite nicely on the sculpt, and I think the coloration is maybe not the most natural color in the world, but it looks good for what it is, I guess, and it is a pretty fun different paint variant of a Pteranodon that I definitely do not remember seeing before. We also have this Pteranodon in here as well, and this one definitely looks much more familiar. I'm pretty sure we've already had this paint variant in the past. It basically is a brownish tone, a dark brown for the primary body. We've got a light brown for the wings, and then a yellow that goes up and over the beak and over the crest. Pretty much the same kind of like theme as far as the colors go as the first Pteranodon we had taken a look at, just very different tones of color, but equally as impressive as far as the fine detail on that one. We've also got ourselves a Gallimimus, and this is absolutely the same Gallimimus we've had tons of times before. Man, those feet are big. I never will be able to get over that, but obviously, again, nothing really all that new with this one. And like I said, I think the majority of these figures are all like figures we've already had before with, you know, a few new things added, and of course a brand new Titanosaurus. But the Dimetrodon here is okay looking. However, again, we did also have a Dimetrodon in the other Rebirth set recently, and as you can see, it is exactly the same one, so no differences as far as that one goes when it comes to the color. Like, they didn't give us even a slight different paint variant, unfortunately, for the Dimetrodon either. We do also have a Velociraptor, and I do believe we've had this one in the past. It's like a really dark gray, and then there's like a black that just kind of patterns through, basically starting in the neck, moving out into the tail before disappearing. I don't really even see eye paint on this one, so pretty much a bare bones Velociraptor as far as it goes. You know, if there were basic minis, these minis would be as basic as they get. There's just not much to them when it comes to the actual paint work, and sometimes, again, even they get lazier than you would expect with the lack of eye paint. But it's an okay figure. Decent sculpt. There is also another Velociraptor in here, as we have like a reddish brown version with a black that pretty much runs the entire same way as the other one, like the same sort of design, just rather than the dark gray body color, we have a reddish brown. Again, same sculpt, everything like that. I don't know for sure if we've had this one before. I'm absolutely not positive, so I can't, you know, definitively say, but it looks familiar. However, if we haven't, it's not really the greatest repaint in the world. There are also two Atrociraptors, and again, we did just have Atrociraptors in, let me try to find him over here, there he is, in the other Rebirth set, the 15 minifigure set, and as you can see, again, exact same figure, no differences there, and same case for, of course, Atrociraptor Ghost. They are exactly the same figure, again, as the 15 minifigure set, and in fact, they are also the same figures that we've had in older Dominion sets as well, so nothing really new when it comes to any of those guys. Like I said, pretty lazy overall when it comes to this set. I really wish Mattel would put more effort into these advent calendars and like just give us all brand new repaints and, you know, some new figures and new sculpts, but I would just love to see them put a little bit more effort into these, because they end up being fairly lackluster. We do also have a Sticky Moloch, which you can see again also is a figure that we've had in the past as far as I can recall. A little sloppiness right there on its hip, but overall, again, nothing new as far as the sculpt, and I do believe we've had that paint variant before. We've also got the Pyroraptor, which is, again, the same Pyroraptor we had in that set recently, so no differences as far as that one goes. As you can see, we're really running through this set quickly because there's not nearly as much to go over as you might expect there to be. There is also a Triceratops, which again, definitely is a Triceratops that we've had. Still a pretty cool sculpt and everything, and it's fun to always have a new Triceratops, but there's nothing really great about this one because it is just another repack, not even a repaint. It's a figure we've already had. However, when we get to the actual official Rebirth dinosaurs, and you know, it's crazy, we had a perfect opportunity to have a Rebirth mini Velociraptor in here, and they chose to just give us those same old, tired Velociraptor minis we've had since the beginning of time, pretty much. But there is, of course, a Rebirth Spino in here, and you can see that does look really cool. When it comes to the versions that we did have in the 15 minifigure set, first of all, we had this one, and we can very clearly see this is not the same as this one, but there were two different versions of the Spino in that set. Oddly enough, I just actually went to find the other Spino from the other mini set, and I don't see it over here. I'm not sure if I put it up on my shelves somewhere. I actually thought I had them all over here for this video, but I did go back to my actual review, and I can confirm that this is the same Spino as the other one. In the 15 minifigure set, there were 2 Spinos. There was this version, and then also this version. So this is, again, another repack. It is a figure that we did already have. But the good thing is, so far here in the United States, the 15 minifigure set hasn't actually arrived. So you can get at least one of the Rebirth Spino minis in this set. But again, another figure that we've already gone over. And also, when I was checking out that review, we also already had that Velociraptor, the reddish brown one, in that set, as well as the Gallimimus in that set. So a large portion of this is pretty much just the same as that 15 minifigure set. There is also, of course, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Now this one is pretty nice and actually has better paint apps than a lot of the mainline ones, because we have paint that actually runs a little ways out onto the tail. And again, the new minis are absolutely incredible. As far as the new species like this T-Rex and the Spino, they are absolutely gorgeous. But you can see it is the exact same figure as the mini from the other set. So nothing new as far as that goes. Obviously, the paint apps are going to be the same on both, and you can see that there. Maybe the striping is slightly different. I'm kind of trying to see if it looks a little bit different, and it might just be the way that they're placed that it kind of looks different. Actually, it sort of looks like maybe it's just slightly, ever so slightly different on this one, but even that is a stretch considering, again, the figures are hand painted, so it's really hard to tell. But for the most part, again, that looks like exactly the same T-Rex yet again. As far as the Mosasaurus goes, we again have the Mosasaurus from the other set, and we can see that they do look pretty close to being the same. But this is actually one of the few instances where I think Mattel did actually switch it up a little bit. So looking at the two, they're very, very similar, but the actual way that the patterns look are slightly, ever so slightly different. This one also has a really strong gloss coat on its face, whereas this one doesn't have as much of a gloss coat. So the one in this advent calendar is the less glossy version. You can see the gloss coat on the tail as well, which this one doesn't really have. So this one is actually a little bit different. So ever so slightly different from the 15 figure set, but it is still the same sculpt and almost the same paint apps, just slightly different positioning as far as the actual patterning and a little bit less glossy. As far as the Quetzalcoatlus goes, let's go ahead and see if we see any differences. I'm thinking no, but I could be wrong. No, it definitely looks like the exact same figure, so no differences that I'm seeing here for the Quetzalcoatlus as well. Again, another figure that we had in that set, so the majority of what we have here is all stuff we had in that other set. But like I said, since that one hasn't actually arrived here in the United States yet, it is good to actually have them in this set as well. And then we've got the star of the show for this set, which is the Titanosaurus. Only the second time we've had a massive sauropod like this in the Mattel minifigure line. The paintwork is really nice for this one as well. You've got like that red-orange moving over that kind of sail-like area on the back. You've got a really nice white here for the face, a little bit of like that dark brown there around the eye. My camera's really not focusing on it for some stupid reason. And then you've got a yellow for the eye, no pupil, but a yellow regardless. And then you have that darker brown here for the lower part of the mouth. The head sculpt does look really nice for being a mini, really quite highly detailed. And if you really wanted to put a little pupil in there, you could. As you move through the body, again, the skin texture is absolutely gorgeous on this minifigure. We also have this striping that moves under the throat, basically striping up into the black right there. And then we see that, or actually it's hard to tell if it's a black or a really dark brown. Up here it looks really much so like a dark brown. As you go further down, it kind of looks a little darker, but it's hard to really tell. But as you move down, you can see that white kind of disappearing into the chest, and then we basically have the grayish tones of the body of the Titanosaur with the darker tone here moving along the back, but that disappears as you move down as well. The fine detail, again, absolutely incredible. For being a mini, look at how beautiful that skin texture is moving through the body. You can see the kneecap, the elbow, the musculature, skin folding and wrinkling. Beautiful looking skin texture, as you get nice and close to my camera, again refuses to focus. You can see how highly detailed that is. The foot sculpts and everything look great. Unfortunately, no painted nails as per usual. And then you move out into the tail, and you do have a little bit more of that kind of red-orange up there on the top, again in that little sail-like area. The skin texture continues to look incredible as you lead out, and you have that really nice windy tail with the black and white striping out there at the end, which looks so nice on the figure. And by far, this is one of, if not the best minis to come from Mattel, no doubt about that. Obviously, pretty much the same thing over here, just different positioning as far as the legs go. Again, the legs and everything, though, look super impressive as far as the sculpting aspect. Even the underside does look pretty good. And of course, you have that nice long tail out there, which is really quite flexible. So that's something to keep in mind. The neck is also quite flexible. You have the ability to articulate the neck on a swivel. Same deal for the tail. Unfortunately, they don't articulate up and down or left and right or anything, just a swivel. And again, same deal for the tail. But that is absolutely incredible. And honestly, I might even like this one better than the mainline version of the Titanosaurus, because it is just so stinking nice and doesn't take up a mountain of room in my collection room. Then we've got some other random little parts here that we're going to have to assemble, which honestly I'm not sure I even want to, but I guess I will, because we're going to have to put it together just to see what it looks like. We've got like a little tube here that you can see does extend, and then you can kind of crinkle it back up. We've also got a nice little area of vegetation, which does actually, on top of having a nice greenish tone, has some footprints and everything moving through it. Nicely sculpted overall. You've got like some stones and stuff as you move around. You also have a few trees, which you can see, which are a darker green, kind of looking like pine trees, I would think. Very nicely sculpted as well. Then you've got a few more areas which do actually feature some extra color, like you've got like some dark grays and some yellowish tones for the handrails and stuff as you lead through, but that also looks really cool. I'm pretty excited to actually see what this looks like assembled. You've got this little area, which actually again has some really nice paintwork to it, honestly, like with the way that they've applied all of the oranges. That looks really nice and really precise. We also have a gray moving along this kind of like tube back here, which looks pretty cool. Then we've also got another little area of vegetation, if I can pick it up. There you go, with some more footprints. Again, pretty much the same style of sculpt and everything as what we had seen on that first smaller one. And then we also have a nice little rocky formation here. Pretty much spots all over this to kind of put dinosaurs, it looks like. I guess we'll have to wait and see to be sure, but it does kind of look like it would create a little display to put the dinosaurs on. But again, nicely sculpted, painted with a nice light brown, or not necessarily painted, but colored with a nice light brown. And then you've got this, again, with some more reddish tones and white tones. It has a really glossy look on those reds. But very, again, nicely sculpted overall. So I'm going to go ahead and try to assemble all of this, and we'll check it out when it's together. So there we go. We have everything pretty much assembled, and it all does connect, kind of. Like, these areas don't really connect, but, like, this is all connected into one sort of display, which I think looks pretty cool and has some room for some smaller dinosaurs and stuff. You've also got, like, the mountain area. And what's cool is, like, obviously you can see we attached the trees. You could put... Actually, this one has room for 2 trees, and then this one has room for 1, so you could put both on one or split it up like I did. But there's like little areas here where you can kind of connect like the different pieces, as you can see. So you can create like a bigger diorama if you really want to. But it is pretty cool, and again, has a pretty decent display. I don't think we need to do sizes or anything for pretty much anything that we have here, but I do want to do it once. Well, I guess technically I will measure the Titanosaurus, but I want to do a comparison with this one and the Dreadnoughtus, because they are the 2 larger minis, and it'll just be really cool to see them together. I'm going to turn it because it's going to be easier to do it this way for me. For a length from the tail to the head, about 8 1/4 inches or 21 centimeters, and then for a height, about 4 1/4 inches, like to the top of that little sail area, or just shy of 11 centimeters, not quite there. For a size comparison with this one, there is a comparison between the Dreadnoughtus and the Titanosaur minis, and I think it's pretty apparent to me that the Titanosaurus now takes the cake as the largest mini that Mattel has released so far. Let's see if it wins in length as well. So if we put the two roughly in the same spot, so technically, I guess you could say the Dreadnoughtus kind of wins because the tail does extend out just a hair further. But if you were to actually take this tail and extend it out the way it should be, like super straight, then the Titanosaurus would win. But overall, the Titanosaurus definitely has like a larger size, a little bit more body mass, a little bit more height to it. But they do look super, super cool next to each other. So this brand new Mattel Jurassic World Rebirth Advent Calendar is kind of fun. Honestly, I think I would have just preferred to be able to get the Titanosaurus in the minifigure line like alone, so I didn't have to rebuy all of these other figures again, but at the same time, like the new Rebirth ones specifically are really nice and they do look great. Again, it's fun to have them here for a second time, and especially with the Mosasaurus having just the ever so slightest difference, that means it is a little bit of a different variant. And of course the others, which are pretty much the same as the other figures that I already reviewed, but it is still fun to have more of them because these minis are excellent. And sculpt wise, again, you know how it works. The minis look great pretty much the entire way through. Even the older ones were pretty nice, the ones that we have basically as reused sculpts, that not even just sculpts, reused sculpts and paint, you know, stuff we've had many times over before. But the new ones specifically are some of the best that Mattel has ever produced, in my opinion, including this Titanosaurus, which might be the best minifigure that they have produced. But overall, I definitely would say that I would have rather just like new figures the entire way through, at the very least new paint variants, just something to make this set a little bit more unique, a little bit more special, because for the most part it's really lackluster. Sure, we have these like diorama set pieces which are pretty cool and they definitely help when it comes to displaying some of the minis, but there's just so much more they could have done with this advent calendar, but instead kind of went the lazy route with so many just straight up repacks of previously released figures. However, if you haven't acquired that 15 minifigure set, you're definitely going to want to grab this so you can grab some of the newer Rebirth minis and of course add them to your collection. So if you are interested, I will include a link in the description to Amazon.com where you can purchase this right now, or you can, if it's not sold out, purchase it on Big Bad Toy Store as well. I do believe it also went up for sale on Entertainment Earth, but I don't personally order from there very often, so that's really up to you. But one way or another, I would say pick it up, and of course like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.